the Bears lost, but we see another crazy performance from Justin Fields. What did you see on tape?
I mean, I think there's a lot of things that are kind of hard to ignore. So I think it's exciting that Fields is finally starting to get some attention that I think is well deserved. And I think this offensive coaching staff is going to get a couple more pats on the back than maybe they had earlier in the season. But I think they're really adjusting well to him. I think when you look at the tape, the two really fun ones that are kind of undeniable were his runs, right? The first one that he scores on, where it's just like he's competing his tail off and then he lowers his shoulder and gets into the end zone. Like, that's incredible stuff. And I don't think people realize how well that plays with your team when your quarterback's willing to put his head down and go ahead and score. And then the second run he has, which is just insane, and he just shows how he's the best athletes on the field, where, you know, they run read zone and then he gets vertical and outruns a corner who's turning to run with him, which is pretty special. So I think those were the ones that jumped off. There were some really exciting things in his progression, the intro clip they were talking about. I'd push back. I'd say it's actually his fourth progression because he's got the alert clear to the field, which he can look at first. But, like, those are the things that to me are really exciting when you see how he's developing from within the pocket and then the addition of, you know, what he can do obviously outside the pocket.
I want to talk about the 2 touchdown passes to Cole Kmet at some point and how the threat of the run created the openings in those plays. But let's get the pick 6 out of the way, where everything just seemed to go wrong and he's just beating himself up over it after the game.
Yeah, I mean, Aiden Hutchinson's a good player, right? 97, he sees tight end screen, he sits down. Justin just needs to dirt it at the feet. Like, the thing that I think is sometimes young quarterbacks don't realize is you could throw it, right? You got the, you know, the tight end, he's at the line of scrimmage. You got Aiden Hutchinson's between you and the tight end, right? At, like, let's call it -2. You can throw that ball at 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage as long as it's going forward, and you can throw it at their feet, and they won't call anything in the NFL, right? They'll give you they won't call grounding because they'll point to the tight end and it'll be all good. He just needs to do that, right? He's used to college where you're going to try to instead sail it over the tight end's head to green grass, which ain't going to be there long in the NFL. The corner ends up, you know, obviously just going to make a play on the football, and then he ends up taking it to the house. So to me, it's like, yeah, pick sixes are terrible, right? You could really see how that shaped the game, although there were still chances late for the Bears. It's not good, but at the same time, in terms of how correctable it is, I think it's really easy to talk to, which is, dude, if we ever don't have screen, just throw it as hard as you can at their feet. And you don't even have to put it anywhere near those guys. As long as there's someone where the ref can point to, they're going to point to them.
It's funny that you bring that up, Tim, because we were having a conversation about dirting plays with a player like Justin, who is able to extend plays and can find gold even when it looks like a play is completely lost or it looks like the defense won on the play. What's the fine line that you have to walk with trying to convince him that there, in some cases the defense does win and you do need to just throw the ball away versus, yeah, sometimes the defense will win the play and then you're going to run for 60 yards and a touchdown?
That's such a perfect question, especially because Justin against the Patriots, there were a couple of times that the screen wasn't there and he actually kept the ball and he followed the screen path basically and went and got a first down. Those are probably the conversations you have to have where it's like, hey, man, we want you to create on run action, play action, boot, straight drop back. You're creating. If we mess up a screen, it's throwaway. I want you to dirt it at their feet and live to play another day. I know we've had 2 or 3 positive plays in previous games that worked for us. That's no longer something we do. If it's a screen that's not there, we just dirt it. We live with it. The challenging part is his instincts will take over at times, right? And he'll do it 3 or 4 more times throughout his career. You just have to talk to him every time, right? Like there's certain things that you're just going to have discussions about, and then they're going to do a really good job, right? Hey, we're going to get 15 reps in a row, and then we'll have it creep up again, and we'll do it again because that's part of what makes us great. And then we'll just have to kind of, wrangle it back in. I view it the same way I view competitiveness, right? So like as a coach, there's a lot of times where you work with somebody or you're doing something and it's high pressure and someone MFs you, right? If you get offended by people that are super competitive, like you're basically gonna ruin their instincts. If you're like, we don't, talk like that, whatever it is, you're gonna ruin their competitive nature. If you can own it and say like, listen, man, this ain't how we're gonna communicate in the heat of battle, but I understand where it came from moving forward. This is what we want corrected. Sure, it's going to happen again, right? Tom Brady's going to MF you again if you're with the Patriots or now with the Bucks, but you're going to correct it a little bit more, and you're going to live with it, and you're going to get the great results from someone who's being competitive. And it's the same thing with Fields, where it's like you're going to get those results. You still just have to coach it, but you're going to get the results of his athleticism and his competitiveness because you're going to go out there try to make a play. But you're just going to have to be willing to correct it. But I would say the screen game is where you just, hey, this is going to be a throwaway from now on. And then you just got to know that, hey, we're going to coach it 10 more times, throughout his career. And that's all it has to be.
How were both touchdowns individually a product of the running threat?
Yeah, so I think the first one was a product of the run because the first one straight off a read zone, right? We're in gun, boom, we fake it to our back going right to left. Then we get out of the pocket going to the right. And then you can see Cole, he kind of stutters on the safety, right? Where he kind of puts his hands out for a second like it's a real stock block. And then he gets vertical. Safety fires, just an easy pitch and catch. The second one, the boot is great, right? They get it's true traditional bootleg under center. We fake it, get out. I think it was under center, but we get out of the pocket. That to me was more design because what happens is so many teams in the NFL, they run this concept where the front side tight end runs what's called an ultra high. So think I get through 12 yards and then I aim for the way back pylon, right? They run the ultra high and then they bring the deep over from the other side. They made it look just like that concept. And then the guy who's normally on the ultra high said, never mind, I'm going to the post. So it turned into a throwback. But safeties in the NFL are coached to, hey, pass the ultra high off to the corner and then you undercut the deep over. So the safety goes and undercuts the deep over. Meanwhile, it's kind of those one-offs, right? It's where you get the, hey, we fake the ultra high, get to the post. And to me, that was such a good play design, perfect execution. Of course, having a guy like Justin Fields who can legitimately get out of the pocket and create space with that run threat like you're talking about helps, right? Because a lot of guys can't hold the football that long in a boot situation because the DN's already on their tail because they're like me, right? Ran a 5.6. With the wind at my back, I think it was 5.6 on my pro day. Blazing speed. My kids are blessed with the speed. But, and then he throws it back, and it's just pretty. And I think that's like to me, that is such a good sign for this offensive staff because I think when I came on here first, it was just kind of like, I'm not going to lie, the film was like depressing to watch. I'm like, I don't really want to go on with those guys anymore because this was horrible to watch. Well, it's gotten so much more fun, right? And now you're seeing one-off plays, you're seeing quarterback runs. So to me, that last one was more design, and I think it was super special from the staff's perspective.
We're seeing a lot of production from Cole Kmet over the last couple of weeks. He's done a really good job. I'm curious on what it is that you're seeing, why he's been more available to Justin Fields as a passing outlet.
I think a lot of it has to do with the increase in run and play action, right? Like how many times do we see, Fields in the gun and he extends the ball and kind of ride fakes his back, or hey, it's a jet sweep and we ride fake it. Anytime you can influence those backers just to step up a little bit, your tight ends can find these deep hank windows and these over the balls and these, cop routes. They can do all these things that you can't do if you're in a traditional drop back. And then I think the addition of Fields in the run game makes it to where it's no longer just like, hey, we have to stop these running backs. I think linebackers are now so paranoid about Fields killing them with read zone that they're even firmer in the box. And they take one more step up, which then just makes Cole so much more, like, to me, available because we now have the depth behind the linebackers in front of the safeties. Because, let's be real. They still have Claypool and they still have Mooney. So it's not like the safeties are creeping up too, right? So safeties are maintaining depth, if not getting further back. Then the run game brings the linebackers up. That we call it a level 2 throw, right? Behind the linebackers in front of the safeties. The depth that we have now for level 2 throws is only increasing. And I'm telling you right now, it's only going to get even better for the Bears offense because it's hard to turn on the tape and watch Fields go for 140 and not think about adding another linebacker into the game or getting even firmer with your run look. So to me, that's going to be it's only better, I think, for Cole every time you see, Fields go and take one to the house from 60 yards out or whatever he did this week.
You mentioned Claypool, and there was a bad throw late in the game on that last drive where it looked like he was targeting Claypool on a back shoulder one-on-one.
Yep.
And it didn't work. It probably should have been picked. There was some kind of miscommunication there. How do you coach that throw? Whether it's back shoulder or whether he's running equal to him, do you try to throw him open by giving him a little more space? What went wrong, and how does that get corrected?
Yeah, it's one great play to pick out. It's because it's such a nuanced look where it's like, yeah, he tried to back shoulder him. Claypool was thinking, hey, man, I'm even, so I'm leaving, right? A lot of receivers always say, if I'm even, I'm leaving. And usually it doesn't work out like that in the NFL. That's just going to be constant conversations. That's the part of a midseason trade that is going to be tough to figure out in season, is a feel for, hey, when do we like back shoulder? When do we like a true takeoff? When do I want you to kind of hold him on top of you, where it's like, hey, let him beat you to the spot because I'm going to pull you back. Those are all things that are going to get worked out in this offseason. In terms of in the regular season, I think with a guy like Claypool, to me, if I'm Justin, I'm saying, hey, man, let's always lean towards the back shoulder fade. The reason I say that is because it can be so much more effective in terms of, if I'm trying to pull a big body guy back to the sideline, it really reduces the risk of a safety coming over the top and making a play on it, or me misjudging your speed with someone I haven't gotten a ton of reps with. So I would lean towards back shoulder right now if I was in building with them. There are still a ton of plays that you win with speed, right? A hitch and go, out and up, deep post, even a sail route you win with speed against the safety. So there's still ways to win with Claypool's speed, but I would lean towards, if it's straight one-on-one, we've got a go route, and the corners, obviously you don't win by a lot. Let's just lean towards back shoulder. And I think it's a little safer way, and it's a way to kind of expedite the growth. It's like when we talked about the concepts, right? Hey, we'd love to see him get to PSL where it's 2 shell, 3 shell, but let's expedite his growth with the pure progression. That is what back shoulder does. Let's expedite the growth of, hey, our timing together of let's lean towards back shoulder. But what we'll get to, later after this offseason is throwing those deep ones where I'm thrown to a spot and I know exactly where you're going to be.
Tim, when you watch Justin, are there still the moments of hesitation with him in the pass game? And I'm wondering, are there plays that he turned into scrambles that you go, yeah, you know what? He maybe could have had 3 there or 2 there or 4 coming open, but he took off and made a positive play. Are there still some of those plays in what he's doing?
Yeah, I think that when he takes off is one of those things you got to live with a little bit. I think you live with it because it generates explosive plays, right? And I view it a little bit, honestly, like Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson in Seattle, you lived with it, right? He held onto the ball, scrambled around, made some plays. Now in Denver, right, he's trying to play everything from the pocket, and it ain't good, right? Like everybody can tell in the national media, like what Russ is doing in Denver, it's not great. I think you live with the playmaking. What I still want to see improved is when I can set my feet correctly and I can be perfect mechanically and accurate, we still miss some of those. Like there was a corner stop route that he just sails, wide and outside. And to me, it's all, hey, we just don't have a clean base when we could have a clean base, right? Like we can't let the end result then be okay with laziness in the pocket, right? So there was that one. And then there was one more that I thought he wasn't aggressive enough early in the game. It was on a boot, and he gets to the sideline, and he kind of holds it and then tries to throw it to the back. It gets tipped, almost intercepted. There was a one-on-one shot with our tight end on a wheel route. It was relatively covered, but it was one of those that you give him a 50-50 ball or a back shoulder that I would love to see him. So if there was anything I tell Justin, if I'm right, hey, you put me in the quarterback room today with the Bears, we're talking about, hey, when we can be perfect in the pocket, we're perfect. And every chance we get, we hunt with the football. Quarterbacks have to be the aggressor. The best guys in the league are aggressive with the football. They hunt with the football. If we have a one-on-one matchup where the linebackers turn, you trust your tight end, you give him a shot to go make a play. So those would be the things after this game that I'd really be pouring into him. And then obviously the fact that we're going to dirt this thing at people's feet when we run screen. But those would be kind of the big 3 takeaways from this game.